Welcome to Daily Life Connection as we continue to explore who God is and how that enriches our lives. I was watching a story the other night on the news about a Syrian refugee family who, a number of years ago, about 5 years ago, came here to our province of Nova Scotia and set up a family business there, which is doing really, really well. It's called Peace by Chocolate, P-E-A-C-E, Peace by Chocolate. And they were interviewing him on Canada Day, and I couldn't help but be overwhelmed by his gratitude that Canada brought him in to this country where he has found peace and a home. He said, "This is my new home." He talked about how his family business and home had been destroyed through the bombing in Syria and back in years ago, a number of years ago, and how they ended up in a refugee camp. Some organization brought them out of Syria, but they were placed in a refugee camp, and how he was thankful for that, but he was desperate to find a home. That wasn't his home, and he kept applying to different countries, different nations, and Canada brought him in. And what a difference that had made in his family's life, and how grateful he was. And it got me thinking about Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 23, where it talks about Moses is talking about God bringing Israel out of slavery in Egypt. And he said, "He brought us out from there in order to bring us in." He brought us out in order to bring us in. And it got me thinking about how glad I am, how grateful I am that God doesn't just bring us out of sin, but He brings us into His presence. Our new home is the presence of God, His country, His kingdom. He's transferred us from the kingdom of darkness. He brought us out of the kingdom of darkness, but He didn't leave us in a refugee camp. He didn't leave us in a halfway spot where we have to fend for ourselves, where we have to try and find a better place, a permanent place. Thanks be to God, when He brought us out of the kingdom of darkness, He transferred us into the kingdom of the Son He loves. He transferred us into the kingdom of the Son He loves. He brought us out to bring us in. That is so joy-filling, producing, so awe-amazing. He didn't just set us free from sin and the darkness of sin and the power of the enemy, but He brought us into His very own home. He brought us into. So, it's like Canada didn't just bring him out of Syria and leave him in a refugee camp, but they brought him into our country, where he has found peace for his family, and where he has become a Canadian citizen and is singing the praises of his new home, of his new kingdom. Isn't that what we do in worship? We're singing the praises of the one who has brought us into His kingdom, into His presence, into His glory, into His peace, into His grace, into His mercy. You know what I'm saying? Like this man was talking about, I was born in Syria. That was my home country. It was my home. But it was being destroyed and torn apart, and it was no longer safe for my children. And that's the enemy's kingdom, a picture of the enemy's kingdom. And he said, now I have this place where I'm free to work, and my family is blessed, and we have, shelter and peace and education for our children, and we are accepted and we're valued here. Oh, wow. And isn't that an amazing, or shouldn't that be an amazing picture of the church? When people come into the kingdom of God, which is not the same as the church is only part of it, but isn't that what they should find there? I am safe, I'm valued, I am given opportunities, I'm helped, I'm counseled, I'm instructed, I learn a new way to speak, learn new customs, but people do it with gentleness and respect and give me dignity. That's You see, the church needs to be that reflection of the kingdom of God, doesn't it? What we're brought into. Tragically, blasphemously. Is that a word? Anyway, there are churches where people come into them and they're full of bigotry and gossip and backbiting and rivalry and condemnation. And what we're saying, that's what the kingdom of God is like. I've seen people come into that and then say, I think I'll go back to the old country. It's not great, but it's better than this. Oh God, help us as a church, help us as Christians to make sure that when God brings people into his kingdom, they find a warm welcome, safety to be who they really are, an opportunity to grow. God brings us out to bring us in. And the land he brings us into is quantum jump in quality, not just a tweaking of the old system. It's a whole new way to live. Thank God for the God who brings us out to bring us in. Let's think about that today. God bless. We'll talk again tomorrow.